It's time for the 1430 Connection on 1430 WNAV and 99.9 FM, spotlighting news, newsmakers, and important community issues. Now, with this week's edition of the 1430 Connection, here's WNAV news anchor Donna Cole.
Welcome to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is Detective Regina Collier and Lieutenant Ryan Frashure with the Anne Arundel County Police Department. You know Lieutenant Frashure. He's our Director of Media Relations for the County Police. Detective Collier, tell me what you do.
I'm actually assigned to our homicide cold case unit, which we are encompassed within the homicide unit of the Anne Arundel County Police Department.
Which brings us to the theme of not just this show, but this is a series. We're going to be focusing on cold cases here in Anne Arundel County, in Annapolis, and then hopefully beyond to Queen Anne's County as well. I have no idea what cases Detective Collier was going to talk to us about. How many cold cases do we currently have in Anne Arundel County?
We have a little over 60.
A little over 60, yes. Going back how many years?
Going back to... The first one is in the 70s, I believe.
Yeah, I think early 70s, around the early 70s.
Is it tough for you all to do catch-up work on those, the oldest cases, because you didn't work on them? Those people are probably now retired from the department?
Yes, it is difficult. Luckily, they took very good notes, and we have the whole case file, so we do go through the whole case file. We split it up through, we read every case note, every report that was written, and the sad thing about the older cases is a lot of the people that we would like to re-interview and talk to, unfortunately, they're now deceased also.
How about the DNA stuff that maybe wasn't done then that is...
We are always looking to retest things if possible. With throughout the years with the technology just has been so advanced lately that we do relook at evidence to see if there's anything possible that we can retest for in DNA wise.
Ryan, that was a thumbs up on you. Is that a big deal now?
Yeah, I think it's a huge deal, with the shift in technology and new developments that have come out. But the thing is, I think a lot of time our public sees TV shows and sees how it appears that stuff's very easy and happens very quickly. That's simply not true. It takes a long time. And the thing that a lot of people don't know, or just seems like it gets forgotten sometimes, is we may have a small DNA sample from a case from years ago, but the problem is you kind of have to weigh the situation a little bit, because once that sample's tested, it's gone. So if that's the only thing you have, as far as evidence is concerned, so I don't want to say...
So a cigarette butt...
Correct. And so say you may have, a piece of DNA, something that's something very small piece of DNA, and Jeannie can correct me if I'm wrong, but once that's used and tested, it's basically, I don't know if I want to say destroyed is a good word, but I don't think we can reuse that and retest it. Is that true? Or
basically all the possible DNA gets used up in order to get get that sample, that small sample.
Yes. Okay, and
whatever they're looking for at that portion of time.
Okay, just out of curiosity, do those get done? Does Anne Arundel County Police have its own forensics labs that do this?
Yes, we do. Okay. We have our own serology lab that works on that. We have fantastic people, very hard workers that work in there. They work constantly for us, and they do a good job. And things that they're not able to test for in that lab, we do send out if we need other.
And is that like to FBI? That's what I've seen on the TV. FBI, it goes to FBI Quantico or something along those lines.
FBI.
Yes, and we also have a private lab that I believe we're contracted with.
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the situation and what we're looking for, and whatever agency or company can meet the needs that we have for that specific case. It's case specific.
All right, so we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to delve right into some of these cases you have to go over. This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is Detective Regina Collier with the Anne Arundel County Police Department and Lieutenant Ryan Frashure, who's the Director of Media Relations for the Anne Arundel County Police Department. This is the first of a few different cold case shows. Detective Collier, tell me about one of the cases you want to get out there to the public.
One of the cases that we were I'm very interested in trying to find some answers for is an unidentified white male that we found in 1985. One of the reasons it's so important for us to get this case out there is because with our victims, if we don't know who our victim is, it's so much harder for us to find out why they were found in this position later. We're really searching for his identity, and we're hoping that someone can help us identify him so
And
we can work the case.
He was found where?
He was found on April 23rd, 1985. His remains were found at a construction site when they were building Morley Station Mall, actually. They were digging up the ground, to lay the foundation of the mall, and they found a metal trash can, and they found the human remains inside the trash can.
A metal trash can above ground, or was it below ground?
It was in the ground, but it was covered with things.
Okay.
So while they were digging things up, so it was kind of like half in, half out. The body was found in the metal container. It was believed he had passed away approximately 5 months earlier. So he was just skeletal remains at that point.
Okay.
So in order for fingerprints and things, that wasn't even
all gone.
available to us.
Okay.
So his remains were looked at by the medical examiner's office, and they were actually also sent out to the Smithsonian Institute, and they did a claymation at that time, a facial reconstruction of him.
And for those that are listening to this on the radio, we will be sharing a YouTube, and I think we'll have images that will be on the YouTube from the claymation. Do we know any information about this man?
Well,
white, black, Hispanic?
Through the examinations done, he was a white male, possibly in his 20s, approximately 5'8" to 5'11", and he's slim-build, brown hair. He was wearing a blue and black sweater at the time and slacks. They were also in there with him. So we do have that to, go on if anyone has last seen their loved one wearing that. It was estimated that he was deceased for approximately 5 months, which put his disappearance probably between the fall of 1984 to the beginning of 1985. And based on his injuries, the medical examiner did deem it a homicide.
Was there a homeless encampment up around that area around that time that you might be aware of?
The detectives did an extensive canvass of the area, and they looked into any missing persons from surrounding jurisdictions and things like that. Just because he was found here, unfortunately, doesn't mean that
he was
missing from here.
Okay.
And we have Fort Meade closed. There's military coming and going around this area. It's hard to say.
So you want to get closure for this man too? Yeah.
Yes, his family deserves to know where he is, one, and two, to know what happened to him. Another case we do have that we would like to talk about is Mr. Bryant Bagley. Mr. Bagley was murdered on April 1st, 2012 in our Northern District area, in the Pumphrey area. He was found lying in the middle of the street at approximately 1:10 in the morning.
And African-American gentleman, I'm looking at the photo now.
Yes, he was an African-American male, about 46 years old. He actually lived in Baltimore City. He did not live in the area, but he did have an ex-girlfriend that lived very close to where this happened. And they were still very friendly, so he would come over from time to time. He did not drive. He took the light rail, so that explains why he was on foot.
Okay.
We are believing he was going to visit her for some reason, but she didn't know he was coming to visit, which wasn't really normal for him, but, it could happen.
Right. So happened late or early in the morning, at 1 o'clock in the morning in Pumphrey, you said?
Yes, in our Pumphrey, in our Northern District area. That's right off Belgrove Road. Where he was found was Gibson Avenue and Boulevard Avenue.
Okay.
It's very close to the Baltimore City line, not too far from there.
Yeah, right outside Brooklyn Park.
Okay.
Right in between Brooklyn Park and Linthicum, in that area there. So.
All right. Any other thoughts on this that might help people put two and two together?
Anything that they can give us in this
and that's a big deal. You say anything, and that really is anything that you can.
Yes, anything, even if they think it's something stupid that they don't even think is important. I mean, the slightest bit of information of if they know that he had another associate up there or anything like that, we are more than happy to look into. Yeah,
it may seem so insignificant to somebody, but it really could be a piece of the puzzle that can help these detectives put this thing together and give this family some closure. So, and this is one that that if you're looking at it on its surface has a high probability of being solved because it's in a neighborhood, heavily populated. So you would think that there would be someone that heard something, saw something, knew something. Unlike our first case where they were excavating and found a body in the wooded area. So this is something that we think has a high probability. If people come forward and are willing to give information, that would certainly be great.
If somebody was out doing something, and I'm not saying this is the case, if somebody was out doing something that was illegal, saying, hey, I was dealing dope or whatever it was, but they want to come forward, they have information.
I'm not interested in what they were doing at that time.
Yeah,
that's not what my job. My job is to find out what happened to this man because no one deserves that. No one deserves to be found in the middle of the street.
This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is Detective Regina Collier and Lieutenant Ryan Frashure, both of the Anne Arundel County Police Department. Detective Collier is talking about cold cases in the county. We just heard about 2, both homicides. We have another one.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, tell me about that.
This one is Miss Myra Kaysen. She is, we've touched on her in the past because she's just a loving woman. From every person I interviewed, every person I talked to. She was a retired school teacher from Meade High School. She lived actually in Glen Burnie, by I wouldn't say too far from the hospital. So on January 28th, 2011, and about 10:50 in the morning, officers were called to the parking lot of the Pep Boys, which is located on Ritchie Highway in our Northern District. And she was found deceased in her Suzuki, in her car, in her vehicle.
Tell me again, what time of day was that?
That was January 28th, about 10:50 in the morning.
Okay.
She was actually found by a postal worker.
Ugh.
And that was the night before we had all of the snow. There were snow piles everywhere. And that morning she was supposed to go to a doctor's appointment. And she did go to her doctor's appointment, but from there we have no idea why she was up in that area instead of just going home, because everyone we talked to or a family member said she would have no reason to be there.
How far away was this from her home?
I wouldn't say it's too far, but
not right next door.
Yes,
and
it was
right
out
next door
of the way from where her doctor's office was.
Okay.
So she was unfortunately found in her vehicle, and it was ruled a homicide.
Caucasian, African American?
She's a black female, 63 years old. As I said, she was a retired school teacher. Everyone that we spoke with says she did not have an enemy in the world, that no one would ever want to do anything to Miss Kaysen. In fact, we had an outpouring of people who just talked about how wonderful she is. And her family is just devastated by this because no one understands why or how this happened.
And this happened right after a snowstorm?
Yeah, we had a blizzard. It was right after the blizzard because I remember responding to that scene up there. And I think part of the problem with maybe why it took a little while for her to be located was there were so many big snow berms built up in the parking lot of this shopping center from a company plowing snow that it kind of hit her vehicle a little bit. So she was inside her vehicle, kind of in the middle of the parking lot, but the way snow berms and stuff were built up from plowing, it was hard to see from Ritchie Highway, from the roadway.
And again, homicide.
Yes, ma'am.
How does weather affect evidence?
It does affect evidence. Like we were talking about the DNA earlier, and how it can affect it. It can degrade it, break it down so it's not as good as it could be. Luckily, she was inside her vehicle, so she was protected by the elements a little.
Right.
So luckily we had that going for us.
All right. Is there anything, we're talking about any little piece of evidence helps?
Yes.
Speaking in general terms, you don't have to go into the exact case, but can you give people an idea how that might play out, either in recent history or further back, something small that ultimately did lead to solving a case, so people know really anything does matter. Any little tip matters.
Oh, it does matter. I mean, just because it didn't seem odd to them, it could have been not in this person's nature for things like that to happen. If they saw them talking to a stranger, or if they saw their vehicle driving through an area, or if they just know of anyone speaking of the incident. We've had people who call in and say, listen, I was here and I overheard these people talking, and that gives us something to at least look into, and something to go on. So any little bit of information does help.
Yeah, and a lot of times even just people that are familiar with the victim really helps, because it helps to know what that person's demeanor was leading up to this. If someone, I think a lot of times people are afraid or feel bad saying, hey, I feel like this person was depressed, or whatever the case may be, or was acting weird or acting strange, or so sometimes that can develop into maybe there was some type of substance abuse problem, and maybe that's why they were in this area.
Right.
Again, not that it matters, we're investigating it the same way, but at least it sheds a little bit of light on some possibilities and some roads that detectives can go down and start investigating from different angles. So because a lot of times with these things, again, I'll refer back to TV shows and stuff, and we get a lot of people that we talk to at meetings or community meetings that think these things happen very quickly, and when we arrive at the scene, there's evidence just laying around, and that's simply not the case. A lot of times it's forensic evidence that's so minuscule that detectives are able to recover from the scene, or our evidence collection is able to recover from the scene. It takes a while to process that. People say, well, fingerprints, and you have to remember, sometimes you may get a good fingerprint off of something, but unless that fingerprint's in a system somewhere, we have nothing to compare it to.
Right.
So if Donna Cole's never been arrested or never been fingerprinted, and you're not in our MAFA system or a nationwide system, we could have your fingerprints all day long, but if we have nothing to compare it to, if we don't have your prints, we can't put two and two together.
Right.
So, a lot of that stuff, all that forensic evidence is good little pieces of the puzzle, and that's what makes the case for detectives. But a lot of these cases that our homicide detectives solve, it's good old-fashioned police work. It's interviews, follow-up, talking with family members, things like that kind of start aligning the things up to where they can put that together with forensic evidence and be able to build a case against somebody. Okay,
so you reminded me of this, speaking of TV shows, on The First Gentleman, where it's skeletal dental records.
We do have dental records. In fact, he is in our CODA system, which is the system that we have his DNA in there, and it runs through periodically to see if it hits on anybody.
It does, automatically, or do you all have to submit that?
I checked with our serology because I've asked him before. It automatically keeps running through. It keeps running that through the system. And he was also put in the National Missing and Unidentified Persons Database. So we have that too. So we have been in contact with other jurisdictions from different states and things with their missing persons, that they're like, okay, we have this missing persons, and we do compare it, and we do have good dental records for him.
And does your dental record check, the one that you're running him through, go through military too? Does that have military also?
I'm not sure who all is in that
Okay.
system, actually, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I would think if it's accessible, it would be, but I can't say that with 100% certainty. Okay. But again, and Detective Collier made me think of this. It's just another one of those. People don't realize. I mean, our detectives, whether it's robbery and especially homicide, are dealing with detectives nationwide on a day-to-day basis. So it's not uncommon for a detective in Florida to call our homicide people and say, hey, we have this person, and kind of compare whether it's an MO or just the way a body was found.
So I was going to ask you that.
Constant, there's constant communication, and I'm telling you, there's no stone that's left unturned with these cases. It's very, very important to us as a department and to the detectives that work these cases. It really gets personal with them, and they really want to make sure that not only the victims get closure, but family members and friends. It's very important to us that they get closure that they need to help to try to start moving on from such a tragic incident.
All your cold cases are online. People can read about them somewhere, yes?
Yeah, so they're on our county website.
Yes, we have started uploading them. I don't believe all 60 of them are on there, but we are in the process of working towards getting that website totally up, because we have
and that's right on the county's website. It's www.aacounty.org.
Okay.
And then from there, I think it's a /police, but they have all the different departments for the county there. You can click on police, and it's right there. Anybody that has any information, they can always, if they want to talk to a detective, that's great. If not, we totally understand. We have a 24-hour tip line where you can remain anonymous, and that's 410-222-4700. Again, that's a recording, so and we don't track numbers or anything. That simply goes to a voice message. You can leave a message with any information that you may have, and it's totally up to you with whether you want to leave your information or not. But any tip that gets left on there gets followed up with by a detective, and they make sure that they follow up with everything.
One more time on that phone number.
It's 410-222-4700. It's a non-emergency number. When you call it, you'll get a machine.
Detective Collier and Lieutenant Frashure, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will see you next week.